He had money, power, and everything people dream of, but not peace. The world saw him as a successful CEO, but inside, he was a man imprisoned by his own loneliness. Then, one unexpected evening, a blind date changed everything, not because she fell for his wealth, but because she saw the man behind it. What happened that night will remind you that sometimes, one conversation can heal years of pain. Before we begin, if you believe that true change starts from within, then make sure to like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs hope today. And don't forget to subscribe to GrateFul Tales for more real and inspiring stories every week. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Globe showing Europe, Africa. We'd love to know our grateful family around the world. He was known as Arman Khalid, the cold-hearted CEO of a billion-dollar tech empire. At 38, he had achieved what most people could only dream of: penthouse apartments, luxury cars, private jets. But none of it filled the silence of his empty home. Every night he sat by the glass window, staring at the city lights, wondering when success had turned into isolation. His life was a series of meetings, deals, and deadlines, with no laughter, no warmth, only results. It had been years since Arman had let anyone get close. His last relationship ended when his fiancée left, saying, "You love your work more than you'll ever love a person." Since then, he built walls so high that no one could reach him. His assistant, tired of seeing his loneliness, once joked, "Sir, maybe you need love, not another merger." He ignored her, until one day, his best friend dared him to go on a blind date. Just one evening, his friend insisted. "You've conquered everything but happiness. Maybe it's time to face that challenge too." Against his own instincts, Arman agreed. The restaurant was elegant but quiet. He didn't want to be recognized. He arrived early, impatient and skeptical. "She'll probably just talk about money," he thought. But when the woman walked in, his assumptions shattered. She wasn't dressed to impress. No designer bag, no jewels. Just simple grace, white dress, calm smile, and eyes that held a kind of peace he hadn't felt in years. She introduced herself softly, "Hi, I'm Aira." They sat. The conversation began awkwardly, small talk and polite smiles. But soon, Aira asked something no one had ever dared. "You look tired," she said gently. "Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind that comes from fighting yourself." Her words struck like lightning. He almost laughed it off, but her sincerity disarmed him. For the first time in years, Arman found himself speaking, not as a CEO, but as a human being. He told her about the endless chase, the emptiness behind his achievements, the fear of losing control. She listened without judgment, and when he finished, she said, "Maybe control is exactly what's holding you back." Her words echoed in his mind long after dinner. As they walked out, she looked up at the night sky and whispered, "You know, the stars shine brightest when the sky is darkest. Maybe your darkness is not your end, but your beginning." That line stayed with him. It was the first time anyone had made him feel understood. He wanted to see her again. But when he called the restaurant to ask for her number, they said she hadn't left any details, only a note, "Thank you for the conversation." Sometimes, a single evening can change a life. Weeks passed. Arman found himself changing. He started greeting his employees with warmth. He donated to schools anonymously. He began listening instead of commanding. The world hadn't changed, but he had. That night had opened something inside him, a door he'd kept locked for too long. And then, one morning, while volunteering at a charity his company sponsored, he saw her again. Aira, helping children paint their dreams on a wall. Their eyes met, and she smiled like she'd been expecting him all along. He walked up, speechless, and she said, "So, did you find what you were looking for?" He nodded, his voice breaking. "No, but I found what I needed." She laughed softly. "That's how life works. When you stop chasing, things start finding you." From that day on, Arman began joining her in community work. Slowly, he learned that success wasn't about how much you earn, but how much you give. Aira taught him gratitude, the kind that heals. Months turned into a year. The once cold CEO became known as the GrateFul leader. His company adopted new values: empathy, growth, compassion. When asked what caused the shift, he simply said, "A stranger reminded me that wealth is worthless if your heart is bankrupt." Aira never sought his fame or fortune, she only wanted him to see his own humanity again. And he did. One evening, standing under the same night sky where they first met, Arman said, "You were right about the stars, Aira. My darkest nights led me to the brightest light, you." Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "And you finally understood the truth. Change your mindset, and your life will change." Moral: your story doesn't end where you lose hope, it begins where you find meaning. True success isn't about power, status, or wealth, it's about peace, gratitude, and love. If this story touched your heart, hit the like button, share it with someone who's lost their way, and subscribe to GrateFul Tales for more inspiring stories every week. And remember, sometimes, one moment of kindness can change a life forever. Crescent Moon Sparkles.